ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another KIRI webinar this Thursday. It's almost the weekend. I'm sure everyone's excited. So as you all know, KIRI is the Qatar Environment and Energy Research Institute, and we are part of Hamad bin Khalifa University, and we come under the umbrella of Qatar Foundation. So before I introduce today's speakers and tell you more about what we have planned, let me quickly share my screen. So if you can just give me a moment, I will be with you. Okay, so like you all know, and like I've mentioned before, today's webinar is quite special because it is about giving back to the community we are part of. It's about giving back to our home. We are all here, as nationals, as expats, and we've built our home here, and to get an opportunity to give back is a big deal, and we're very proud of our team who volunteered with MoPH to give back to Qatar and to help in whatever way we can. If you've been part of our webinars before, you know that at KIRI we do research which is relevant to COVID-19 and to helping Qatar tackle COVID-19 as quickly as possible so that we can all go back to a semblance of normalcy. All right. So before I introduce today's speakers, I have to quickly run through this. So this is technically the housekeeping items. As you would have noticed, all of the attendees are muted when you join the session, and only I can unmute you. It is just to make sure everything is audible and that each of you can get the maximum value out of today's webinar. And like I've said in every webinar we've had, it is important that it is interactive. This isn't a session where we are talking to you. This is a dialogue, and we need it to stay that way. So please feel free to hit the Q&A tab and ask us as many questions as we want. Our hope and aim is to answer every single question. Sometimes it's not possible in the interest of time, but we will do our very best to answer every single question at the end of the webinar. Please just make sure you put it on the Q&A tab rather than the chat tab. It's just a little more efficient that way. If you look at the bottom of your screen, you will see the mute and the camera, all of those buttons. There's a little thing with the 3 dots. If you click that, the first option in that is your question and answer tab. So that's where you will find it. And in case your colleagues are missing it and they are interested, please let them know. There's nothing to worry. It will be uploaded onto HPKU's video portals in the near future, hopefully by early next week. If you are posting about the event on social media, which I definitely hope you are, please use the hashtag KIRI webinar. If you're posting it and promoting it, we would obviously be very, very grateful. The session today, featuring both the speakers as well as the Q&A is expected to last 1 hour, and we will do our best to stick to that timeline. If you don't like the way your screen looks, you can always select that little 3 rectangle thing which is on the top right corner of your screen to change the way it looks. Okay, so that's pretty much it from me. And now to introduce to you the speakers, Dr. Azhar Siddique is from the Qatar Environment and Energy Research Institute, and he's definitely a colleague who I am very happy to work alongside. Dr. Siddique is an environmental health expert working as a scientist with the Air Quality Program of the Environment and Sustainability Center at KIRI. He has over 15 years of experience in environmental sciences with a focus on indoor and ambient air pollution exposure affecting public health. So public health is a topic that's very close to his heart. He's been committed to it and working on that topic for quite a while now. And his last workplace was indeed the Ministry of Public Health. And he has also worked as a postdoctoral fellow at KIRI. With 4 kids who live in Canada right now, and like every parent knows, it is very important for us to be able to give back to the community, to try and protect and keep us all safe. So thank you so much, Dr. Siddique, for everything that you do at KIRI and your volunteering and other activities. Our second speaker for today is Dr. Syed Jafri. He's with the Ministry of Public Health, and he has worked as a physician in clinical and administrative settings in India, Saudi Arabia, UK, Canada, and currently in Qatar, he is working with the Ministry of Public Health. He is part of the COVID-19 contact tracing team and part of the non-communicable diseases group overseeing the implementation of the Qatar National Diabetes Strategy. So both these gentlemen have a lot of experience in public health, so please do shoot your questions across, and we will try to answer as many as possible. So that is pretty much it from me, Dr. Said. If I can, have you online with your camera on and with your microphone on, that would be amazing. Dr. Siddiq.
Okay, assalamu alaikum and good morning, everyone. Thank you for your participation, and I appreciate that you share your time and to be with us this morning. As our host, Mrs. Saad, has already introduced that in today's webinar, Dr. Jafri from Ministry of Public Health will also share the part of presentation and also the question and answer session. As you're aware from the webinar announcement and the title, that today I'll share my experience of volunteering with the close contact tracing team at Ministry of Public Health, and also trying to connect the lines that environment and sustainability center capacity and capability that contributing and will contribute towards the fight against COVID-19. Dr. Jafri will enlighten you about the manual and digital contact tracing mechanism. Although the subject in the area is large, but we'll try our best to open the forum for question and answer and limit our presentation. So here we go. Amid COVID-19 pandemic in Qatar, MoPH launched a national campaign to volunteer with the motto for the sake of Qatar. The campaign starts from 3rd week of March, I guess around 23rd of March, something like that. And within 3 weeks' time, Ministry of Public Health received more than 35,000 registrations from the community members. It is really an amazing picture of community spirit that reflects a highest level of community engagement at this time of crisis, which is unprecedented in the modern human history. It's rarely to find such commitment and unity among a highly diversified community, which is tasteful of different languages, ethnicity, religion, and nationalities. Ministry of Public Health has a tough job to select these candidates for volunteering. So they put a selection of the best fit by assigning such top priority requirements such as medical professionals, the people having communication skills and experience, and having data analytics skills, or plus the languages skills, because Qatar consists of a diversified population, and we need these languages and skills very much in every walk of the life where we have to interact with the people. So, volunteering is something that connects you to the community with a cause, and some people call that volunteering is basically altruism. It's a recognition and satisfaction of one's self-esteem made by sharing your time and skill.
Dr. Azhar, if I may request you to speak up a little bit more. Some people are saying you're not quite audible, so if you could speak up a little bit more, that would be great.
Okay, I'll try my best.
Thank you.
Okay, so it's better now? Okay.
Yes.
So it's basically volunteering is a way helping others and feel a sense of gratification. But as social being in this critical time of pandemic, while I'm working from home and thousands of miles apart from family, actually I want to be connected. So when I received an email from the Foundation Communication explaining how QF members or employees can apply or support as a volunteer to the Ministry of Public Health, that flashed into my mind the way I can overcome my anxiety and swinging mood and to counter that social loneliness by connecting with the society, helping others to feel good, and all of above giving back to the society, because everyone has a role in the community. So I looked up around my contacts in the Ministry of Public Health and spoke to them. Hey guys, do you need help in something during the vacation? So There's a will, there's a way. The next morning, I got a call from Mr. Public Health Folk, of course, Dr. Jaffrey, and he said, "Are you really available even on Eid days?" Because due to Eid vacations, many people are willing to enjoy holidays with their families, and contact tracing team have a large number of cases to be handled. If you remember, in the last 2 weeks of Ramadan and during the Eid day, we have the peaks of the peak in contact COVID-19 positive cases. So this is also to remember that contact tracing involves high level of data security due to the privacy issues. And since I used to work for the Ministry of Public Health in the past, so I have a green light to go, and there is no hurdle to join this volunteering. So before going forward, about the work that I have during the last 3 weeks or 4 weeks during my volunteership, I would like to mention here the capacity of having environment and systems center in terms of COVID-19. Well, before the pandemic occurred, almost a year ago, with Muhammad Ajoub and Dr. Kashif Rasool from Environment and Sustainability Center, we agreed to propose a study on the biodiversity of biosols in the ambient environment, focusing on bacteria, fungi, and viruses before, during, and after the sandstorm in Qatar. So this is almost a year ago. And also, the ESC Center is providing services to MoPH on biological assessment of indoor air in the schools. So we are very much connected to that field. So I can say we are already in the business. Nowadays, Dr. Kashif and Dr. Khalid Mahmoud with their colleagues performing COVID-19 related assessment in wastewater and all this. So let's come towards these transmission routes. So far, 2 confirmed transmission routes have been identified by the WHO and CDC USA. One is the person-to-person contact, so that's why it's communicable disease, and another one through the aerosols. At the beginning of the pandemic, it was a great debate whether these aerosol transformations, like transforming through airborne or it's through the droplets. So there is a technical difference. I don't want to go into technicalities. But now the evidence-based science is related to the droplet phenomena. So it's not to be a true airborne, but it's a droplet aerosols. Because if it is an airborne, then the situation could be worse in hospital-induced secondary infections, and we could see more severe outbreaks in enclosed buildings with centralized air conditioning system, like most of us in Qatar or in the offices and the buildings, they have the HVAC system. For the easiness and sake of convenience for the common public, I could say there is a cutoff for the droplet, and that droplet cutoff size is 5 micron. If the size of aerosol is greater than 5 micron, we consider it as a droplet, and less than 5 micron, we consider them as an airborne because they get drier before they hit the ground. And if they are more than 5 micron, so they usually hit the ground and then they evaporate. So these droplets can be a source of infection through talking, coughing, and sneezing. That is why social distancing rules of distancing 2 meters apart from each other and using masks provide to be the most effective way of encountering this COVID spread. Here, it's just a graphical representation from one of our friends, Mr. Dr. Sartorius. He presented this work in this pictorial way. So actually here you can see on the left, top of your left, if you see there is a black particle which is size of 10 micrometer, and next to that the red one is the red blood cell size for comparison, and next to that is the black ball. You can see this is the size of fine particle of 2.5 micron. Next to that, the blue one is actually it's the size of the bacteria, common bacteria, and next to that, a teeny particle which has been zoomed for your convenience is the virus size of the virus, like the SARS-CoV-2. Here in the big picture, you can see a single aerosol of 10 micrometer or 10 micron can hold a number of viruses into it. So if you look onto this graph in the blue line, it shows you the person when we are talking, how much particles we are emitting. And in the yellow line, if somebody coughing, how much particles it's like coughing out. And look at the sneezing one. When sneeze someone, you can see the number of particles could be 100,000 and more than 100,000 in the size range of between 5 to 15 micrometer, which are the aerosols of concern. So here is some scientific reviews that tells us that if we have a distance less than more than 1 meter, then there is a 3% chance to contract this virus. And if you increase the distance with other infected person more than 2 meters, the chances go down to the risk goes down to 1.5%. And similarly, with the mask and the eye protection, it significantly go down. There is a debate about the numbers because there is no systematic randomized controlled trial has been conducted for all these things. But nowadays, many people are conducting these studies, and sooner we are anticipating that we should have some solid statistical analysis for that. So it comes back towards this, what you can see, the transmission chain. You see, here you can see the simplest way how the COVID-19 spread out. In fact, all the viral diseases spread out following the same pattern. The problem with the COVID-19 is, as compared to an earlier viral pandemic like influenza, is the long incubation period, which is around 5 to 6 days on average. When you feel you contract the disease or symptoms appear, and sometimes they won't appear for a longer period. And we come to know that that person is infected. So by the time we come to know that this person is infectious, he already or she already infected many people during this contact. As compared to COVID-19, if you look on towards the influenza, the incubation period is 1 to 2 days, and very soon, if you got contract the virus, people know that you have certain disease, and then you can take the precautions. And during the asymptomatic period, the person who is spreading the virus, we call this super spreader. So the super spreader is like Superman. He is spreading virus everywhere and nobody notices. So here you can see that how many pandemic, like any kind of pandemic, not about the COVID-19 pandemic or epidemic, can pass on from one person to the community. So my colleague, Dr. Jaffe, will explain in more detail about I'm just trying to give an overview, how a person who contracts the virus from the outside country came into the country, and then it infects certain individuals, and that individual spread out the virus to their families and to the co-workers at workplace, and from that family members and from that co-workers at workplace, they transmit it to other people, and that spread out to the whole community. This is like, I would like to explain the work that I did with the contact tracing team. In the real time, we receive a data sheet from the field staff, or we call it the swabbing team who are doing testing. We use the term swabbing or swabbing team. That sheet contains the contact number of the focal person, and also the contact number of the focal person at family and at the workplace. So our work is to make calls to these focal persons to obtain the detail of the close contacts in the family, their family members, how many swabs and how many not swabbed yet, and how many positive, how many people are quarantined or in isolation status. But another most important aspect is to identify the high risk population. That high risk population includes the people like, let's say you have age 60 plus, or the kids having under 12, or some people in the home having some underlying health conditions like diabetes or cardiopulmonary diseases. Or also, if there is some selected occupations that we classify high risk, like frontline workers, healthcare workers, the people in police and army and law enforcement agencies. So these are the high risk population. If we find such population in any cluster, then we take that on the priority to our swabbing team to handle them first. So I just quickly go over the slide that basically from individuals to go for the cluster, and then there is another team who is basically contact these clusters like the home or the workplace. Where we have a number of people to take their more details if they need some help, and if they are spreading, or like in last 2 weeks, if they are move out, hang out somewhere, so we can trace out how many people and at what location they already infected. So the ultimate task of is to break the chain and to flatten the curve. So as you can see, this is you can see the graph. This is the latest one, which tells us that we are almost approached our peak area, and now if the trends go same, we will be getting it down. So before going into this, I would like to explain something about this volunteerism that I did at MoPH. Okay, actually, that's the real essence of doing volunteerism when you speak to stressed people, the people who are in a state of deep anxiety and depression, and mostly due to overwhelming fear that they induced from social media. Make them feel, so by talking to them, you make them feel secure and hopeful. We are listening to them. And sometimes one can talk to you about 30 minutes because they didn't find any hope that they can, how can they can come out from this COVID-19 situation. And it's hard to talk to such people, and it's challenging, but also an opportunity to play our part in the world. To me, COVID-19 is more about mental health issues compared to clinical issues. As if we look onto the society in Qatar, the pandemic is not that deadly. But if you look onto, and if you talk to the people who are contracting, or the families who are contracting these COVID-19 disease, they need a mental health help. I suggest everyone search and work for mental health volunteer organizations in Qatar and feel the joy of helping the needed part of the community. You can just Google it and you will find there are, I saw that 2 or 3 organizations that only work for these mental health issues. So I would like to talk about some challenges that there are certain challenges when you make for contact tracing calls. The population mix in Qatar is unique. About 51% expats belong to Southeast Asia, and they could understand Hindi or Urdu languages. About 27% is Arabic speaking, and the rest are other languages. So we need people in the contact tracing team who are expert in that language, because when you talk to someone in need in their own language, they feel quite comfortable and easy to communicate with you. Similarly, we have some issues with the timing. People are at rest, especially while they are in quarantine, and they refuse to talk to you if if they are in a swinging mood or if they are sleeping. And in the last week of I joined in the last week of the Ramadan. So Ramadan timing and after that sleep pattern also unpredictable. So when you make call, usually they are not in a mood to talk to you. And repeated calls, we make sometimes for additional information that we require. And when you make the call, they show that they an irritated behavior, because they said in the morning we receive one call and they take that much information, and another call that much information, and what you have to do with all this information. Another issue that we encounter when we talk to people is split family in quarantine or in isolation. They want to rejoin with the families because in the beginning we have ample space to keep families together, but later due to management point of view, it is challenging to manage family together. So the bottom line is that everyone has a role in the world. Maybe not for the whole world, but for the world around us. So keep playing your part. This is from my side. And now I would like to call upon my colleague, Dr. Jaffrey, so that he can share his thoughts with you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Azhar. That was actually quite interesting. I'm just going to give Dr. Said the presentation rights. Meanwhile, let me remind all of our audience to please go ahead and ask your questions in the Q&A tab. We are here to clear any doubts you may have, any concerns you may have. So just please post it in the Q&A tab and we'll be happy to answer them. Thank you.
So good morning, everyone. This is Dr. Jaffrey. I'm from the Ministry of Public Health. And I would like to start by thanking the Curie Institute, the Curie from HBKU, for giving me this opportunity, and also MoPH, Dr. Suha, for allowing us to make this presentation for the webinar. Besides that, I would like to thank my friend, Dr. Azhar, who has kindly consented to volunteer with us during a time when it was crucial for the country to fight against COVID-19. So here I have been asked to make a small presentation on what is contact tracing. So I will begin with a quote for my friend, because the presentation title was Giving Back to the Community, and it's about volunteering. So I would start by saying, you make a living by what you get, and you make a life by what you give. The credits are for Winston Churchill. So we come to the main topic now about contact tracing. Contact tracing is a public health tool that gets the right kind of care and treatment, and also prevents transmission of the infection further. So we can do it in two ways. One is through the manual process, which we used to do in the beginning at the MoPH, where Dr. Azhar helped me. And the other way, we have recently got it from the Ministry of Interior, which is the Ehtiraz app. So I'll tell you about both the details about what is happening on the manual process and on the Ehtiraz app. So during the manual process, what happens is we have an index case. An index case is the person who is first infected, the person who first gets the infection into the home, into the workplace, into the community, is known as the index case. So we identify the index case, ask him certain questions about his condition, about his symptoms, and then try to identify his contacts. The contacts could be in home. As you can see on the screen, it could be on the at home, at work, it could be his friends, or it could be the healthcare professionals who provided care to him. So we identify them and get their details and try to make a list. So the second step is listing the contacts. So the contacts are listed as home contacts, and as work contacts. And then we call their supervisors or the home contact focal person to get their details. And then we pass on these details to the swabbing team. The swabbing team and the ambulance team are the people who are in the field. They go to the homes, workplaces, to identify these contacts and provide them treatment, swab them, and move them to either quarantine or to the hospital based on their symptoms. So this is the manual process that happens in MoPH, and we coordinate all this, and Dr. Azhar has been helping us on this. So here in the slide, we have a situation. This is more explaining about the details, how the contact tracing happens. So there is a confirmed case, and he's isolated and provided care. So he is positive. Now we ask his contacts, and the first contact we get is he's also positive, has some symptoms. He is treated or quarantined for 14 days and then discharged. The second scenario is that the person has some symptoms, but he has no symptoms or some symptoms, but can be quarantined or self-isolated for 14 days, as it happens in Qatar, and then discharged. The third scenario is we could have a missed contact. Missed contacts are really dangerous because we have missed them. We have not identified them rightly. And what happens is they could be having no symptoms and could be spreading the infection into the community. So the fourth scenario is that the patient we identified as a contact from the index case has a positive COVID status, and he is isolated, given care, and he has not spread any infection. So there is no further spread. So these are the four scenarios that can happen, and we come across this in contact tracing. Now about the digital process. Qatar launched this Ehtiraz app to track COVID-19. And as of 22nd of May, it's mandatory for all citizens to have Ehtiraz on their smartphones. So when we have that, how does Ehtiraz work? So Ehtiraz uses, the app uses a Bluetooth technology and detects the smartphones in its proximity, and it constantly pings the small packets of data through its Bluetooth, and those signals are captured by the Ehtiraz, which is within 2 meters. And if the phone remains in contact if the two phones remain in contact for 15 minutes, it is considered an event. And in case of Ehtiraz, if you have a green status and you are in contact with a person who has been deemed positive, you will be turned gray. So then you will have to, with the gray means that I'll be explaining in next slide. So these are the codes for Ehtiraz. Red means you're positive and you have to be either hospitalized or quarantined based on your symptoms and your conditions. And if you are a vulnerable population, then you have to be hospitalized. If you are yellow, that means you are in quarantine. You have minimal symptoms or no symptoms, but you have to be isolated, self-isolated at home or quarantined in a facility. Gray means you have come across a suspected case, a COVID positive case, and you will be subjected to tests and you have not been examined as yet. So you are a suspected case. And green means you are in good health. So these are the 4 ways we identify through Ehtiraz the contacts. And this is how, through the packet data, we find, and whenever we go to, we leave the house, it is mandatory to have the Ehtiraz app on, and it is being checked in the malls, in the grocery stores, on the roads by the MOI policemen. So this is a way to track people and keep the spread under control. So the bottom line for contact tracing is that it helps provide care to the people, identify them if they are vulnerable, and provide appropriate care to them, and also prevent the spread of the virus. So these are my acknowledgements to Ministry of Public Health, to Ehtiraz app, and to Kiri from Hamad bin Khalifa University. And we have taken some content from World Health Organization and the CDC. Thank you very much for being with me. I hope this has been a good learning opportunity for you to know more about contact tracing. And I'm happy to answer any questions you have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, gentlemen, for answering the question for your presentation. And now we do have a few questions. If I may ask Dr. Azhar as well to switch on his camera and his mic, the conversation can happen with both of you. All right. So first of all, my question is to Dr. Azhar. I mean, it is something that's popped up on my screen here. Is were you not scared while planning to volunteer? I mean, especially I understand your family is not around, but when it came up in my house, for example, one of my concerns were I have a 4-year-old child, so I don't want my husband or myself to go out and be on like the front line because I have a 4-year-old child. So, are there risks involved where you're not worried about the risk? And also, similarly, should other families be worried before stepping up?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Raj, for the question. In fact, life is all about the risk. But this is the first question. When I wrote to Muhammad Ayyub, my line manager, and this is the first question he asked me. And the same question our ED, he asked us. He asked the same question that what you asked. So by working with the contact tracing team, we make sure that we have no contact by any way with the patient. It's only to deal with them through telephonic contacts or by emailing contacts. So there is no risk involved at all.
So maybe then if I can ask Dr. Said this, since you work with MoPH, is most of the volunteering similar lines, or is it because Dr. Azhar was volunteering with the contact tracing team that the risk was minimal? What do you think?
At MoPH, Dilraz, we are not really exposed to the field. So we are pretty safe if we take the standard precautions of social distancing and hand hygiene and keeping general hygiene good. We are good. We are not exposed to the public, and we are not exposed to the patients. So that's why we are safe.
Okay. Another quick question. I don't know if you're aware, but yesterday there was a news in the media which said that for India, or at least Kerala, where I come from, which is South India, a green on your Ehtiraz app is sufficient to board your flight from Doha. So basically, Kerala will accept passengers who have green on Ehtiraz. One of the concerns that came up while we were chatting in my friends group is that enough of a guarantee? Because if I'm not tested, my Ehtiraz is obviously going to be green, right? I could be a carrier. So how much of conviction does the Ehtiraz app have in terms of really tracking who is positive? Even the supermarkets, everywhere we have to show the green. But is that good enough? Do we still not need to increase the number of swab tests and things like that? What's your opinion on that?
Right. That's a very good question and very apt for the situation. Now, what happens is a green on your Ehtiraz means that you've not been exposed. Also, it means that you've not been tested. And as far as using this for travel purposes, I'm not sure whether countries do accept. Most of the countries want you to have tests when they land, or getting tests before they come in. So I'm not sure having a green would be good enough. But for Qatar purposes, I would say that we have been tracking this app sincerely, and also this has kind of it's kind of foolproof to have this app, but there is no guarantee, because what happens is I could have no symptoms, I couldn't have seeked health care, and I might be a carrier and I might be spreading. So that's not a guarantee. But, having a green means you haven't been exposed to, or you haven't been to the health center seeking issues about the condition.
And my understanding is that once you get tested and it's clear, I mean, if you're not positive, it goes back to green. I believe it goes to gray when you're being tested, and when you've been cleared by the health center, it goes back to green. Am I right?
Absolutely, yes. If you're exposed.
So again, I mean, it is a new technology for all of us here. We've not had to use something like this before. So obviously there is a lot of curiosity and concern around it. So again, so if I have my app and I go to a supermarket, for example, and there is somebody else in the area, maybe outside the supermarket with red or something like that, or if I'm in a park, now that the parks are open and somebody has red somewhere nearby, will I get an alert? How will I know that I need to protect myself? Or is it something that you guys from your end track and then let me know that, oh, by the way, you've been exposed or possibly exposed, so please, is that how it works?
Right. So what happens is the Ehteraz app alerts you. That's very right. As I just explained, that there are packets of data which are emitting from your mobile smartphone, and there are similar smartphones in the vicinity. If they both have the capability to interact together by those chirps, they are called chirps, the smart packets, the small data packets which are being exchanged, they are called chirps. So they communicate to each other by chirps. And if one is exposed and is red on his Ehteraz, and he comes close to you for 15 minutes and within 2 meters, and if that contact period is attained, then you are likely to get yourself gray until you get and go and get yourself tested and cleared. So Ehteraz alerts you, and it also makes sure that everyone remains safe.
Okay. So basically, it would make sense for me to check my Ehteraz on a regular basis if I'm stepping out of the house.
Absolutely. And it sends messages if you are in the vicinity of a COVID positive. And it alerts you that move away, you are in close proximity of a COVID positive case. So that's the beauty of this app or the technology.
Okay. So we have a question that just popped up here. So it's in the similar vein. It says, if someone is marked gray on the Ehteraz app, does that mean everyone in their circle is alerted, or is it only once it turns red? And is it the contact list itself, or is it the vicinity? Are we looking at the distance, or are we looking at who they might have been, like connected to, maybe workplace and things like that?
Oh, no. What happens is, this is very important to understand. The Ehteraz app only communicates through those chirps, these small data packets which are emitted. It does not go into your phone. It does not look into your information. So no information exchange happens. It's just through the Bluetooth, these chirps are being tracked. And when you are in the vicinity, you are alerted, not that your contacts are alerted.
Sure.
So the contacts are not touched. Unless you get into the vicinity, that person is positive. So you will get that message and you will have gray, and then you will go and get yourself tested to prove that you have either positive or negative to get yourself green.
Sure.
So is that
While on the topic of privacy, so when the app was released, and even now, when a social media post comes up about Ehtaraz, you see a million comments asking, why does this app need access to my photos? Why does it need access to something else on my phone? So are you telling us that there is no concern there, that it is indeed safe, and that our data and my photos and my videos, each person, of course, is quite possessive and private about a lot of things on their phone. It's safe.
right? Now, to answer that question of Dilras or the participant, I would first say that I'm not an expert on the technology, but what my experience is and what I've heard from the team, this is an MOI app. So the data is safe. And for the information of the audience, it has to be made very clear, no personal data is shared. It's only the chirps between the two phones. The IMEI number emits, personalized or customized, data packets that are shared between the two phones. None of your photos, none of your personal contacts, none of your personal information is shared. That's what I know.
That is quite reassuring. So thank you for that. I have another question here. It says, how long does it take? So if I go, if I go in for a test this morning, for example, and so how long does it take for it to go from green to gray and gray to red, or gray back to green? What is the time duration once I get tested?
This is kind of real time, but there are sometimes, a bit of a delay, making sure that the data which we received from the lab or from the PHCC, from the Hamad Medical Corporation, wherever tests was done, we want to make sure that this data has been received and is correct. So then it takes a while. Otherwise, usually it's real time.
So from what I understand, because one of my friends recently had to get tested. So from, obviously they were very concerned, and, it is a scary situation, right? So from what I understand, when they went to the health center and came back, the app had turned gray. And the result came almost 24 hours after they gave the test. So is that a regular sort of window by when someone who's tested can check their results?
Yes. Time frame wise, 24 to 48 hours is pretty decent and standard time to get the app change its color code, and also to get the results.
Sure. So from talking to my friend again, who went through this experience, she informed me that they had the update of the Ehtaraz app back to green even before they got the confirmation from the health center. So if anyone is taking a test, if anyone is concerned, looking at your Ehtaraz app might be your quickest way to find out whether which direction you're moving in, and then also confirming it with a call to the health center. Am I right?
Absolutely. What happens is sometimes the Ehtaraz app gets the information ahead of the information that is generated and sent to you. So getting and checking the Ehtaraz app is the fastest way to know what you're doing at times. But there could be a delay, which I cannot confirm, but there could be delays as well.
Okay. So moving on, I don't know which one of you would like to take this question, but what is the effect of ambient temperature on the life of COVID-19 within the water droplet?
Well, I would ask Dr. Azhar to answer this. He's the environmentalist.
Yeah.
Sure, Dr. Azhar.
Thank you, Dilras. So temperature, usually perceived in the beginning that with the higher temperature, this virus got destroyed. This is what you call is the common biology. But as such, if you look on to the pandemic, this pandemic is more spreadable into the indoor environment, which are very much controlled and enclosed. From ambient environment, there is no outbreak reported. Only one study has been done in China, and it proves that the virus load is very low, and it is not able to make you infectious. So if you look into Qatar's perspective, outside temperatures are really very high. I don't say virus, a person could live very in a difficult condition, so virus cannot. But the problem is that we are living in an artificial environment, in the indoor environment. So indoor environment is actually, it's a controlled environment. So I would say the purpose of the question is to ask, like, with the higher temperature, we could feel that the virus will be gone and vanish, and we have maybe 10 or 20 positive cases, but it's not the case. We are actually living into the indoor environment.
And like we discussed earlier in our webinar in the beginning of March with the energy team, which is led by Dr. Veronica Bermudez, Senior Research Director, as yet there is no conclusive evidence that heat or outside temperatures really destroy the virus. This is pretty much relatively the first time that we are dealing with this particular strand of the coronavirus, and so I think everyone, including scientists, are hoping for the best. And at the moment, there is some evidence that shows it does, but it's not conclusive. So let's all hope that the Qatar heat is good enough indeed to keep us safe. Since I have you, Dr. Azhar, I'm going to go back to the volunteering experience and ask you some more information. So how did your day sort of look like in terms of volunteering? And also, you are a key part of the ESC team at CARE. Was it a challenge to balance the two? I would say it's probably unfortunately your family is not around, so you could keep yourself busy with without them.
I started the volunteership when the vacation did start in the last week of Ramadan. So CARE is close. I spoke to Muhammad Ayoub first, and then Muhammad Ayoub and Dr. Mark, I really appreciate that not only I asked for the permission, they not only gave me the permission, but they sent me very encouraging words. And they really appreciate that, boost my energy to go there. And while I was very much engaged with the team, and when the vacations end, then they request, could you stay for a little while so that we can, by the time probably we are anticipating that the number would go down and more people will join from work from home to the workplace. So I spoke to Muhammad Ayoub. He said, if you can manage your free time, so you can do that. So I choose the last 5 hours of the evening. So I go there. I went there to the MoPH usually in the evening after 4 o'clock, around 5, and then I do my contact tracing now because I'm now a little bit experienced. So I finish my job earlier.
Yeah, we are indeed fortunate to have a supportive workplace, and our management is quite supportive. So this is a shout out from us to you, gentlemen and ladies of the management team, if you're listening. I am going to go back to more questions now because we have questions pouring in. Okay, so if I'm not sure again if it is relevant to the panelists today, but is the transmission through touching surfaces still valid? I mean, is there any research that says that's changed, or is that the case still? While I let you think about it, let me remind the audience that we have a webinar coming up in the first week of July, which talks a little more about this. So, and that will feature QBRI, QCRI, and us at CARE. You will, of course, receive the invitation soon. So if one of you gentlemen want to answer this question.
Yes, so I'll take that question and I will answer that. That's a very relevant question, and there has been a bit of a controversy recently. But what I want to say is the virus survives sometimes from 2 to 9 days, it says, on some surfaces, especially steel and others. But On the other end, the part which is tricky is that the viral load. How much is the viral load? So if it is less than 1,000 viron particles in the surface which we are touching, it's unlikely to cause any symptoms or cause infection in you. But the droplet infection, which is not through touch, which is through the droplet spread, is the surest way. Why? Because one sneeze has about 3,000 viron particles, which is good enough to have the infection. So if you are touching, for example, a healthcare professional is there, and if he's touching the saliva, or some patient has sneezed on her, or she's touching some area or surface which is having live viron particles, then it is most likely they are more exposed. So healthcare professionals, nursing aides who are in close contact with the patients are more liable to get infection by a touch, unless they keep all the PPE and guidelines for hygiene in place. So touching surfaces is a little tricky, and usually the virus does not survive long on them. And with the kind of awareness around, so the surfaces are maintained clean now, so it's unlikely that touch would cause it.
And I think, like we've explored in the previous webinars as well as today's webinars, the onus also has to be on the person themselves. So if you go grocery shopping, for example, make sure you wipe down everything. If you're ordering food in, make sure you wipe down everything. We all can each contribute a little to keeping ourselves safe in the situation.
Absolutely. And the best part is use of masks these days. The infection is transmitted either through the mouth or nose or through the eyes. So those who wear glasses, automatically, naturally, they are protected. With the mask, you often do not touch your mouth and nose, so that's how you get prevented. And also, if somebody sneezes or you sneeze, then you are protected. So I protect you and you protect me. So the masks are good enough for that.
Okay. So the next question.
Maintaining hand hygiene is surmountable in this condition.
So wash your hands as much as possible, 20 seconds with soap. If soap is not available, make sure your hand sanitizer is around, and wear your mask, preferably the surgical mask, right? Not cloth masks.
Again, any kind of mask provide protection. So I would say not really surgical, but the importance is that, if you use a mask and if it's disposable, dispose it in a closed bin. That is more important. And of course, if it's a washable, then you wash it daily. Make sure that once used, it shouldn't be used again.
Yeah, okay, that makes perfect sense. So if you're using disposable masks, use it only that once you go out, come back and straight to the bin. If it's a reusable cloth mask, please make sure you wash it. Again, it would be wisest to wash it after each outing, essentially, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay. So now this question I think is more relevant to Dr. Azhar, who's an environmental scientist with our ESE team. So as you show, the COVID-19 can be inside the water droplet. So is it possible that this may stay on PM 2.5 and spread over long distances? Because PM 2.5, as you and I know, can travel for long distances, even transboundary.
Yes, as I mentioned in my presentation as well, although we not went into the details, technical details, but truly speaking, airborne, we can say that COVID-19 is not an airborne disease. When it comes out from the droplet, if it's in the small droplet less than 5 micron, so you can say it evaporates, and the nuclei particle that flow with the PM 2.5 or PM 10 particles for the longer distances, you may find the RNA, but these RNAs you cannot say like they are the viable or non-viable. Viable or non-viable means they are the dead or alive. So usually they are the dead. So that's why I quote two real-time examples. Like one is that the hospital secondary infections, we have not that much spread out with no outbreaks. And similarly, we have no outbreak find anywhere in the world where we can say in the whole building, usually when the building is feed by HVAC, centralized air conditioning system. If there is airborne capacity, that one infected person could spread this to whole building. So these outbreaks are not, except one study in China, where they reported that in one restaurant, three families went over there and they got infected, even they were sitting far apart. But this is not like complete evidence to give. To the science up to the date, only two pathways. One is aerosol, the liquid aerosol. We can see the aerosols greater than 5 micron and the person-to-person contact.
Okay, so again, we have somebody asking if if there's any confirmation if the virus is airborne. So the response to that would essentially be it is through respiratory droplets. So in cases of like coughing without a mask or something is when the air essentially carries it, but it is not necessarily categorized as an airborne illness. Am I right?
Yes, you are right. But one more thing I would like to add that maybe Dr. Jeffrey is overlooked is that when we talk about the airborne particles we talk about, make sure, especially the most, like the high risk area is the washroom. Whenever you flush your washroom, please close your lid and then flush it. This is, and avoid to use the public washroom as much as possible, because as one of our team is doing on wastewater investigation for the COVID-19 virus, there is a high load, because it proves that there is a high load of virus in the waste. So when we are an infectious person use the washroom, so that air particles, when you flush it, remain into the whole area quite a long time.
So these are essentially quite simple if you think about it, wearing a mask and, closing the lid when you flush and things like that. So it is, truly we can contribute our own way to controlling this situation. I have a question now back to Dr. Syed Jafri. So somebody's asking us about the psychological effects of the color codings of anthrax. So because it does catch your eye, and is there any concerns about that? Is there anything being done about that? I mean, when my friend went through the process, I know she was quite stressed out when it was gray. So, how do we sort of address the psychological issues that's relevant to anthrax? And I'm sure if I see my phone, giving me red or some other warning, I'm going to obviously the initial reactions obviously panic. So is there any advice on maintaining your calm and being composed if you see a warning or if you see red or gray or any of that? Dr. Syed, what do you think?
Right. Now, what happens is that's a fantastic question, and the psychology part is very important. And I would, in general, say that there is a bit of a panic about this disease. The spread is immense, and it's into the communities now. But I would say that the best way is to not panic and keep the calm. It has to come. It's like a mild infection in some cases. Those who are having comorbidities are more at risk. Others are not so hit hard. So I would say remain calm. And if you see a gray, it doesn't mean that you are positive. You have to be examined. So prepare yourself that, I'm going to get this done. I have done what I have done. I'm keeping all the, measures which I could. And if it is there, then it's good for me that I will know that I'm going to have this, or you can be subjected to proper treatment. So there is no need to panic about this. So having a gray or red doesn't mean any harm to you. It just alerts you. So I would suggest everyone to take this calmly and attend to the health centers, healthcare facilities, and go as per their advice. And keep the calm. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, that does make sense. I mean, I'd rather be prepared and know what to expect, and that I need treatment than be asymptomatic till it gets to a bad situation or I infect people around me. So yeah, that does make perfect sense. So like if you're gray or if you get a notification, take a deep breath and get yourself tested. Stay calm. Stress is not going to help any of us. So just
Absolutely.
go through the processes. Qatar has set up a good system. There is a proper process in place. There's a helpline. There are health centers designated for this. So you can go through the process calmly. I know, and all of us know that it's quite nerve-wracking, and because there's essentially no treatment, and there's a lot of news around it. So be calm and follow through with it.
One more thing I would like to emphasize here, Dilraz, for our audience, that this app is not to track you or trace you and to chase you. It is to help you. This helps you alert that you might be in the vicinity, and that alert, if you've taken it seriously, you will move away. Number one. Number two, if you get a color code, that means you are going to test yourself. You are going to prepare yourself to embrace and to face the COVID, not to track you, trace you, or to harm you. This app helps you. It helps the system. It helps the community as such.
On that topic, I did receive a question. Dr. Azhar, just if you can give me 1 second to read out this question, and then I'll come back to you. If you do not have symptoms, the health centers usually don't take a swab test. But if I see a gray or if I get an alert, will the health centers then take my test, because there is a possibility that I've been exposed? Because if I go to a health center today and say I'm not symptomatic, but I think there is an issue, or they usually say no. But if I tell them, that I have got an alert, would they give me a test?
So is it us taking that question?
Sorry?
So this question is addressed to me?
Either of you, whoever knows, because people want to know that if they show the color code on the app, or if they get an alert on the app and they go to the health center, it helps. So does it really make a difference if you show them the atras and it shows the notification?
Yes. For the notification, the system already knows, because Ehtiraz is connected to MOI and MoPH. So they already know that you have it. They might approach you on their own, or it would be, as a good citizen, your duty to go and tell them that this is what I have received, not to hide from it, not to keep it to yourself, and don't expose. Don't feel that it is something negative. Take it as a positive step towards this fight against COVID. So what I would suggest is, if you get it, if you're not contacted, proactively go to the system and say, this is what I have received. Can I be tested? What could be the reason? The reason could be, it could be an error in the system, So you will know that you were not positive and this was done in error. But the other thing is, if you are positive, then you are ready to prepare for it. Like you will be getting the right kind of treatment or the right kind of advice to face it. So don't delay. As soon as you get some notification, take the right steps.
So, okay. So another, Dr. Azhar, were you looking to add something to this answer?
Yes, I would like to add very important thing. Many people complain about the phone battery by using Ehtiraz. So because it uses all the time, all the Bluetooth. So I would like to say that the phone battery is not important more than your health.
True.
Your health, your family's health, your loved ones. So all the time, keep on this Bluetooth. Don't try to switch it off to dodge the health professionals. You are actually dodging yourself. One thing you should remember and keep in your mind that for COVID-19, we have no pharmaceutical treatment. We have only treatment is non-pharmaceutical treatment, that is prevention by social distancing. So this I would like to add.
Sure. I think this question is probably for Dr. Jaffrey. Why did the Athraz app register contact even after 15 minutes? What is the logic for choosing the 15-minute window?
See, what happens is they have set it up in that way. This is something technical as well. So what guidelines say is 15 minutes and the distance less than 2 meters is the positive contact event. So if that happens, then you are turned into gray. So that's what the theory behind it. If you are sitting with a person who is positive, you've been alerted, you ignored the message or you did not see it for that matter. So you know that you've been exposed. You don't know that you've been exposed. So the system tells you that you've been exposed. When you get it gray, you are alerted. You have to go to the system to find out what has happened. Why did it turn gray? So then you will be told, and this all information is stored in the Ehtaraz app at the back end with the ministries. So the health professionals will be able to guide you then that this has happened and you've been in close proximity for this much time, half a meter distance, less than 2 meter distance, more than 15 minutes, more than half an hour. So this is what it exposes you. So if the chirps of the two phones remain in contact for more than 15 minutes, it's a contact even. That's the standard.
Okay. So while we're on the topic of, like contact and Bluetooth, we have another question that came up, which is I'm personally curious about as well, because the moment you activate Ehtaraz, it asks you for your location to activate your location and GPS. So does Ehtaraz only use Bluetooth or does it also use GPS? And is the Bluetooth contact data stored so that it can be used later to trace contacts that have happened in the past with people who were later discovered, to have a positive result?
See, what happens as soon as you are exposed, your data is matched with the other person and that chirp is recorded. And these stored data is seen by the professionals. They decide what has to go with you. If you've been exposed enough and we need to treat you, then we say, okay, can you come to the system? Can we do this to you? This is what is happening. So it is important that we keep our Bluetooths on. It is also tracking us because we need to know where we have been exposed. For example, if I don't know, was it at work or was it at a grocery store? So I can analyze myself as well, that what might have happened or why I'm being exposed to this. So location plus your Bluetooth chirps, both are coordinated to get the response.
Okay, so I'm going to hold you on that. So can I look at my device and know if I ever crossed paths with somebody who was positive? Is there any way to do that? I mean, not that I've noticed, or do I have to come to like the MoPH or like the backend Ehtaraz operations and ask, can you track me? How does it work? Can I look at it on myself?
No, you cannot on your side, but definitely it alerts you. I have seen messages coming on people's mobiles stating that you are in close contact, and it always says keep your Ehtaraz running in the background. And as Azhar emphasized, I would emphasize that point again, that it is much more important than your personal information, than your battery, than your phone to have sound health. And this app helps you maintain your healthy status. So keep it on, help the people around, help the ministries to serve you. to keep you safe.
Okay, I am getting questions on my phone as well as here. I mean, the talk has been quite interesting. However, in the interest of time, I might just take 5 more questions, which have already been asked. So, if you, ladies and gentlemen, have questions which you have not asked yet, please shoot us an email at Kiri-communication. That's QERI-COMMUNICATION, communication singular verb, at hbku.edu.qa, and we will try to get you in touch with the 2 gentlemen. Going back to my next question. So this this also relates back to what I had asked about, people with families and those with pre-existing vulnerable conditions. Is there any way to volunteer to provide remote assistance?
Yes, there are ways to do it remotely, because we have some data which we put into our systems to store it. So you can receive that data, go back home, and do it on your computers. Yes, but the only thing is you have to sign a confidentiality statement, and you have to keep the data safe.
Yeah.
So that, because we are dealing with patient data, and that has to be kept safe. It's of immense importance for all of us at MoPH and at with our partners. The partners like Hamad Medical Corporation, PHCC, we are all saving the data, keeping and making sure that it remains safe.
Sure. I mean, of course, patient confidentiality is of utmost priority, for sure. This is an interesting question. I don't know whether you have the answer, but I'm sure everyone is curious about it. Of course, it's mandatory that every adult citizen with a phone, adult resident rather, with a phone, or download the app. There are ways, even if you don't have a QID now, with your visa number, you can download it. But what is how many downloads have actually been done for the app? What percentage of the population actually is using it? Do you know?
I think I think Azhar has put that in his presentation also. Did you, Azhar?
No, because it's not
I
our
think
data.
what I've read somewhere, I have no reference to this, but I think it's more than 100,000 in some newspaper or some place. I've read through more than 100,000 users are there. They have downloaded and it is being used. So,
inshallah, hopefully that is true. And everyone else who's listening and who were on the fence will also go ahead and download it and use it after your talk.
Absolutely. I would urge them, each and every person, to be a citizen, a responsible citizen. Go back. If you do not have Ehtaraz, you have to download it. It's a help to you, to the community, and to the healthcare providers who are fighting against time and against the situation to keep you safe. So I would urge everyone to have that on their mobiles and show it whenever necessary.
Okay. So I had this question. However, I think I might know the answer, but you can correct me if I am wrong. So the question says, if it's gray and I self-quarantine for 14 days, will it automatically go back to green? Am I right to think that if it's gray, about in 24 to 48 hours, you will either become red or green, because you would have, tested, or etc. So there is no question of self-quarantining essentially in gray, because you will know whether you're green or red over the next 48 hours, because if it's gray, you should ideally test.
Yes, a gray means you are suspected, you've been exposed, and you have to go and get yourself examined. You've not been examined. Gray means you've not been examined. So you have to go and get yourself examined to get either a red status or a green status. So gray means, if with gray you just go and self-quarantine and do not get yourself tested or do not seek healthcare, then it won't turn red or green on its own. Red means you have to have a test. If it's positive, you will get it red. If it's negative, you get it green. So gray means you cannot self-quarantine and say I'm done, but you have to go back and get yourself tested. That's the suspected thing.
This is an important question. I know that especially after hearing Dr. Azhar's experience, people are keen to volunteer. So are there any opportunities for volunteering as of now? If there is an opportunity, how do we avail it? This particular person who's asked this question has said, as a recovered patient, I would be happy to give back to the community. First of all, congratulations on your recovery. I'm not going to name you in the interest of privacy, but I am so happy to hear, and I'm sure everyone else also has been motivated to hear that we have a recovered person chatting with us now.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's fantastic to learn that he has recovered and wants to pay back to the community. Probably he might or she might have good experience and would have been given the right kind of care which was needed. So with all that, I would say that if they want to volunteer with us, they can write to us. Azhar, I think there is a website where you or there is an email where they can send in their profile and get them invited for volunteering. Is that right, Azhar?
Yes, you're right. So there is a website for registration, but like I would like in my presentation encourage people to join the organization who are working for mental health of these COVID-19 patients. And I know I went to the website from the QF itself. Within the QF, we have an organization of the students, I guess, from SPKU who are running this organization for mental health issues.
Dr. Azhar, if I can ask you if you can quickly find that link and put it in the chat, either the MoPH one or the other one, it would help. Otherwise, please email us and we will connect you to the right teams and on how to volunteer. So if you can find it, that would be great. Otherwise, we can always let them know. I'm also going to go on to the next question, if that's okay, because it is almost 11:30. We're almost half an hour past. So what are the chances of infection back once somebody has recovered? And are you tracking that kind of patient information? Maybe not through ETHRAS, but I mean, is MoPH sort of tracking who's been recovered and following up with them, or how does it work?
Yes. So if we talk of recovery, recovery means recovery from the symptoms, number one. Number two, recovery from a state of being infected to a state of being non-infective. So both the things are very important here. First is your health. So you have to be in good health. No symptoms. That is one measure or one factor which we figure out. The other one is your infectivity. So what happens is, and it's a very important question and good that you brought it up. So now what happens is initially when we were discharging patients after their quarantine period of 14 days, we were doing a test again to see if they are positive or negative. And it was found that mostly they are positive. So recently, European guidelines have come up and they say that if you have passed that 11 days or 14 days period, you don't remain infective. Though the virus or the virion particle in a desiccated form remains in you, but it loses its ability to infect somebody. So there is a value, there is with the RT-PCR, the test, which is done for COVID-19, there is a CT value that is called a cycle threshold value. So this value is very important. If it is above 34, then you are sure that this patient is non-infected. If it is less than 34, you are sure that this patient is infected. So that CT value is being evaluated now. And most of these RT-PCR, the polymerase chain reaction, real-time polymerase chain reaction, that's the test which is being done. And the CT value is evaluated to find out if the patient remains infective. So we can know that he is in good health, no symptoms, he is recovered, number one. Number two, the other way that he will not spread infection to the community is through the CT value. So these things are important for us.
That sort of straight up leads me to the next question and the last question from the Q&A panel. And I will take one more final question from ones that I have received on my phone. So, now that you know these values and you know that certain values make you more contagious, and if it's a certain value, you're not contagious, why not consider? I know that there are a lot of people stuck outside the country who are keen to come back to their families and come back to their, to their life essentially in Qatar. So why not just test everyone coming into Qatar for these kind of values? Since there's clarity on that, why are we looking at putting everyone somewhere for 14 days?
Okay, so you're asking a question. Let me get this right. You want to ask why Qatar is not allowing people from outside who are residents here to come back and join?
Yeah.
That's the
they
question.
They need to get tested, of course.
Okay.
So why not just test it and see if they are contagious, not contagious, positive, not positive, and let them sort of get back to life. We are, essentially saying 14 days in a hotel. So why do you think that is?
Right. Even before, as an MoPH person, my decision or MoPH decision, this is the decision of MOI. And this is based on certain guidelines, which is related to travel. So I would say that I can only stop there to say that we have no role to play in the immigration process. So it's the government who decides who has to come in and who is not allowed. So at this point, nobody is allowed, and that's the norm for Qatar at this point. So once that restriction is lifted, probably then we can have these tests and quarantine measures in place for the people who are coming from outside. So as of now, what we know is if they come in,
they have to be quarantined.
They have to quarantine. So Qatar Airways wants you to book the hotel or the quarantine facility before they even travel. So 14 days of quarantine is a must.
As a physician, when I introduced you, I did mention you are a physician. Do you see the value in those 14 days of quarantine? I mean, do you really, to me, it sort of makes sense because they could be asymptomatic when they come in. So it sort of makes sense to keep them safe and secure with, food, water, doctor, and everything that needs for their care, apart from the isolation factor. But isolation indeed is important to contain this virus. So as a physician, do you see that this is in your sort of personal opinion, not I know.
Right. So for personal opinion, I would say this will be based on a fact that air travel exposes you to a lot of hazards. And you might not be infective when you started your journey, but during the travel, you might have acquired the infection. So when you arrive into a country, you are bringing a new strain maybe, or maybe source of infection. So it is dangerous for the country in the spread, number one. Number two, it is dangerous for you as well. So quarantine is a way not only to keep you safe and the community safe, it keeps you safe in a way that we keep you under close observation, close to the healthcare. If you have no symptoms, you are given a quarantine. If you are having symptoms, you are taken to the appropriate healthcare facility where you can be treated or provided appropriate care. So both ways, for me as a physician, it has a big value.
I think essentially, we stop thinking about. I mean, we think about being trapped in a hotel. We think about, essentially losing 14 days. But I think we have to give more priority, like both of you gentlemen said, that this is for our health and health of our community. So, if I am positive and I come back, I am in Qatar, by the way, but if I were outside and I'm coming back, I don't, in an airport, in an airplane, we meet with a lot of people. Somebody could have given it to me. So it just makes sense to keep me safe from, myself and keep me safe from everybody else. So we know, when we look around that a lot of people are not particularly good with home quarantine. So when you're in a hotel, you're mandated, it's the rule. I think it probably is likely that people will follow that, much more rather than when they're home, because you might think, okay, just a quick run to the grocery store or just a quick jog. But when you're in the hotel, And of course, the key is that you have healthcare facility access when you're in the hotel. You have doctors on hand. And you can always if you feel unwell, there's somebody to tend to you and take care of you. So that's something we have to emphasize a lot on when we talk about the quarantine when you travel back. Thank you, Jeffrey, for your time. I will end with one last question to Azhar, which popped up on my phone. Do you think volunteering has sort of made you has helped being away from your family during difficult times? Was
Yes,
volunteering?
Of course it is. Of course it is. Because when I call people and connect myself to them, and most of the people, when they are quarantined, they are away from the family too. So when I talk to them, speak to them, and then they mostly talk about their families. It's like they are worried about them. Like when I talk to one guy, he says, my wife is just newly arrived in Qatar and she's living alone at the home with one kid. Could you call her and give some suggestions how to do that? Because I'm quite worried about her. So like these things be happening. So when you connect with the people and when you feel the pain, and you can share many things. And by this way, you are also diluting yourself too.
Thank you. Thank you so much, gentlemen. And thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, who joined this webinar this morning and gave us, almost half an hour more than the time we requested. I hope it has been of value to you. I mean, at the end of the day, what we've learned from listening to Dr. Azhar and Dr. Syed Jafri is that we each have a role to play and we each can help in containing this. Please wear your masks. Please wash your hands for 20 seconds. That's the happy birthday song if you don't know. And do your own individual parts in keeping the community safe and in helping Qatar and in coming back to essentially normal. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. I hope to see you again at Kiri's webinar, which is on the, I believe, 8th of July. You will, of course, get email from me about it. Thank you, Dr. Azhar Siddiq. Thank you, Dr. Syed Jafri. Have a good week. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Kiri. Thank you, MoPH. And thank you to the staff of Kiri, wonderful staff. Thank you, Dilraz. And thank you, Dr. Muhammad Ayub. And thank you, Azhar, for this opportunity for me to present myself to the audience. Thank you very much. And have a wonderful day.
Very, very
Keep
well.
yourself safe.